Hi, it's Jennifer Hoffman of EnlighteningLife.com, and in this video I want to talk to you about two subjects. One is energy memory and the other is boundaries. And yes, we have props, and my prop for today is a dahlia from my garden. Now this is a pretty big dahlia. Here's my hand's about medium size and it's as big as my hand. Isn't it beautiful? So I grow these in my garden. And every time I see a dahlia, it makes me think of a situation with one of my children. And so that's the energy memory. The dahlias have a particular memory because they remind me of something. And every time I see a dahlia, I think about boundaries and how it's important to be really clear with people about your boundaries, about what's allowed, what's not allowed, what's acceptable, and basically how you want them to act or what you want them to do. So everything has energy memory. If you look at something, it always reminds you of something. Dahlias remind me of this particular situation. There could be, you look at something or you smell a certain smell. Like, for example, my grandmother, when I was growing up, would wear rose water hand lotion. And every time I smell rose water hand lotion, it makes me think of my grandmother. So the story behind the dahlia, the energy memory, and the boundaries is this. When I lived in Northern Virginia, I had a beautiful flower garden, and I grew dahlias, I grew all kinds of flowers, and I had such a beautiful garden with so many flowers that people would literally stop and admire my garden and take pictures of it. I actually had a couple people take their wedding pictures in my garden because it was so pretty. And one year in particular, I grew quite a few dahlias, and I had dinner plate dahlias. Now, this is a big dahlia. Dinner plate dahlias are the size of a dinner plate. They are enormous, and this one was huge. The bush was almost 4 feet tall, and I had it all staked out, and the flowers were burgundy and white, and it was just gorgeous. And I would talk to my children about it. I'd show them the flower. Look how beautiful this is, and look at this big flower. And it was just an amazing flower. And I fertilized it and watered it and make sure it was all taken care of. And then it started to bloom, and it didn't have a lot of flowers on it, but the flowers, like I said, were just huge, and it was just beautiful. So one day, my oldest son had a date, and he comes up to me and says, "Mom, I have this date. I'd like to bring her some flowers. Can I cut some flowers from the garden?" And I said, "Sure. Here's a pair of scissors. Go cut a few. Don't make it too big. You don't want too big of a bouquet." So you can guess what happened. He comes in the house and he goes, "I picked some really great flowers," and he shows me. And what does he have? My one big bloom from my dahlia plant, my beautiful dinner plate dahlia, is in his bouquet that he had cut. And I went, "Oh, okay, I'm sure she'll love it." I said, "Why did you cut that one?" He says, "Mom, this is the prettiest, most special flower in the garden." So rather than telling him, or going out with him or telling him, "Okay, you can cut these flowers, but don't cut the big dahlia," he just went out and cut what he thought were the prettiest, most special flowers in the garden. So I didn't set the right energy boundary with him. And this is something I talk about a lot, because when we don't set good energy boundaries with people, which is how we contain our energy and how we tell them how to act in our energy field. So when they are interacting with us, we have boundaries that say you can behave this way, but you can't behave this way. I have, this is allowed, but this is not allowed. When we don't do that, people don't know how to behave in our lives, so they will behave any way they think is okay, because we didn't tell them what the rules of engagement were. And that's what boundaries really are. And not that I wasn't angry with my son for picking the flower. I was upset because I didn't tell him not to cut the flower, and I didn't think that he would cut what he knew was my favorite flower. And maybe that was why he cut it, because he thought it was the most special flower in the garden. So every time I see a dahlia, it reminds me of this situation, because it was kind of funny. It was, he did it just because he wasn't, he's a sweetie, and he just wanted to give her a really great bouquet of flowers. And he was proud of the fact that, his mother had grown these flowers. So he was not only giving her a bouquet of flowers, he was giving her flowers that came from his mother's garden. But when you have no energy boundaries, and you have a lot of situations where you don't speak up, you don't speak out, you don't tell people what you want, you aren't clear about your boundaries, then you get involved in situations that have bad energy memories. So say, for example, you let a friend drive your car and they wreck your car, and you can't afford to pay the deductible, and the insurance won't cover it because you won't pay the deductible. So now you drive around with a car that's got, damage, it's got a big dent in it. So every time you look at that dent, what do you think of? I should never have told them that they could drive my car. I knew I didn't feel good about it. I knew I should never have done that. And that's your challenging energy memory. Whereas if you had had the good energy boundary before and someone needed to drive your car, and you'd say, nope, nobody drives my car. And that's what I do. Nobody drives my car. You can go rent a car. You can call Uber. There are all kinds of different situations. If you need a car, you're not driving mine. And it's for that reason. I don't want the hassle of having to deal with somebody's accident. My car belongs to me, and I just don't let anybody use it. And people know that, and they don't ask me. So this is what else happens when you have good energy boundaries, is people will ask you once or twice, and then they'll know what your energy boundaries are, and they won't ask you again. They won't violate your boundaries. So some of you are afraid to set energy boundaries because you don't want people to get angry or upset or hurt their feelings, but that really says more about them than it does about you. And I think you will find that every time you don't have good energy boundaries and you go against your intuition and you say yes when you really mean no, that you end up in a situation where you regret not having energy boundaries and you regret not having said what you really wanted to have happen and been more clear about what's allowed and what's not allowed in your life. So to avoid having these negative energy memories, you need to have good boundaries. And boundaries just, again, they set a parameter for your life that says you can do these, you can operate within this boundary, within these parameters, and you can't operate outside of them. And when you're very clear about that, and then you enforce your boundaries, you tell people no, you tell people that's not allowed, then you end up with better relationships. You don't have unexpected surprises. You don't have, these challenging situations where, again, picking a flower is no big deal, but what if somebody wrecks your car or damages your home or causes physical harm to you or to somebody else because or they behave badly in your life, or they cause problems for you because you didn't say yes or you didn't say no when you really should have, or you didn't very clearly specify what it was, what kind of a behavior is allowed in your life. And if people don't like your boundaries, that says more about them than it does about you. So don't avoid setting boundaries because you don't want to hurt people's feelings. Believe me, you won't hurt their feelings. They'll get angry, they'll get upset, but if you won't say yes, they'll go find somebody who does. And I tell clients that a lot. Don't worry about people who say no. If you ask someone or someone asks you to do something and you say no, they'll just go ask somebody else. If they ask you first, it's because you're the one who always says yes. And they always, like kids, who do kids ask to do something? They always ask the parent who's going to say yes. So every time I see my dahlias, this is my energy memory. Every time I look at my dahlias, I smile and I think of my son coming into the house with this big bouquet of flowers and my beautiful dinner plate, burgundy and white dahlia right in the middle of it. And he was so proud and he was so happy that he'd given this girl his beautiful bouquet. And I guess she really liked it. But the thing is, I think it was a one-date thing, and then he didn't have another date with her. So it wasn't like this was the beginning of a beautiful relationship. And it just makes me smile, and it reminds me that I need to be clear about my boundaries. I need to make sure that I let people know, what's acceptable in my life and what's not. And that way I don't have unexpected surprises and challenges, and I don't have bad energy memories that are associated with things where I look at something and go, I wish I hadn't done that, or why did I say yes, or why did I let them do that? This is what boundaries help you do. They're very healthy, they're very good for you, and they make you feel more confident and more powerful, and most importantly, they give you a lot of clarity because you tend to be very clear with people when you have boundaries, but also it enhances your self-esteem. So when you have people who treat you with love, honor, and respect in your life, that makes you esteem yourself more. And self-esteem is the necessary ingredient that comes before self-love. Before you can love yourself, you need to value yourself. And you value yourself more when you know where your energy is flowing, you know where you have good energy parameters, and you feel like you're more in control of your life and of what goes on in your life. So here's my beautiful dahlia. Again, this is a pretty good size one. This is as big as my hand, so the dinner plate dahlia was like as big as my head. I mean, it was a really big dahlia. But these are beautiful because we've had some rain and the temperatures are cooler. My dahlias are blooming again, so I'm going to enjoy them for a few more weeks. And every time I look at them, I smile and I think of my son with my bouquet, with his bouquet, with my beautiful dahlia in the middle of it. And I get a strong reminder of setting good energy boundaries is a good thing. It's Jennifer Hoffman of EnlighteningLife.com. Thanks for watching, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video.